If you look at my background, I don't know if it was the way I was raised, the military in me, the analyst in me, whatever it might be, there's always a better way of doing something even when you're doing it well. When you're talking Montessori and you're talking for pre-K, educational materials are all provided to the children to learn and grow at their own style and pace. When I say there's always a way to do it better, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with what you're doing. It just means that there's always that opportunity to flourish. It was in my nature to go out and seek out the expertise of someone else, which came in the form of these MBA graduates. Take a look at this with me. Tell me what you think. Does one or two of the things that I'm doing make sense? And what other suggestions from a business perspective can you give me to grow the business?
His vision was he really wanted to get the operations kind of up and running to where, he could expand and focus elsewhere. Then once you scale, you can do more of the marketing to where at that point you'll be ready to take on more students. We had that initial meeting at his facility. We asked a lot of questions. We went back and started developing some of our own ideas. And then as information went back and forth, we were of course doing research to start to solidify the ideas and really firm up our position. So we had created an online survey that we said you can start at least with your current customer, get a better sense for what's important to them, and then kind of transpose that onto the prospective customer.
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of growth through suggestions of renovating our infant area and the suggestions they made on the operational side because it connected to growth. We've seen that bear out already. We immediately got into motion on updating the marketing materials, overhauling the website, looking at campaigns within the community. Those were all things that we are right now, as I speak, in the process of updating.
Key to all of this was you just want your voice to be heard. And when we were halfway through to hear that he had actually run with one of our ideas already, it made you know that what you were doing, it meant something.
I'm proud of these schools simply because they've had decades worth of experience with teachers who have been here doing it, day in and day out. It's not easy work, it's driven by passion, and to be able to now give them some solutions with the research and the experience of Seton Hall and bringing that to bear, I'm thrilled with where we're going with this.
Over 90% of the students' decisions, or over 90% of the decision-making process of where they're going to go to high school is in the students' hands.
More and more these days, students have a bigger say in where they're going. I remember getting told where I went to high school. The world is a lot different today. The issue is one that we grapple with annually. It's how to get not just more students, but also the right students. Making sure we have the best and the brightest students here, a cross-section of Westchester in terms of the diversity, religious or otherwise, and make sure we're enhancing and furthering the mission of a Christian Brothers school, which is to stand in solidarity with those marginalized by poverty and injustice. The Seton Hall helped us focus on was finding the right fit, what school they would be most successful at.
Alex and Anthony, they both came to Seton Hall. Really, we just wanted background, their perspective, and trends they're seeing. In that first initial meeting, we went towards how to define our current business issue.
Something that is really not mentioned.
We spent all day, pretty much almost all day at Iona Prep. We actually lined up outside the cafeteria. We actually got about 40 students that answered us. Why Iona Prep? Was it their decision or their parents' decision? One more thing they actually brought up was their Gale for a Day experience, so that was a big finding we had. That was a main deciding factor of them choosing to attend Iona Prep. 65% of people actually had a Gale for a Day experience. So having that representation of, different ideas, different insights really helped us moving forward, saying this is something that we should definitely hone in on.
The biggest surprise was the Gale for a Day, that most of the decision came from that. One of them actually recounted a story that they came and had a very bad experience with the Gale for a Day, and they weren't going to come here, and their mom encouraged them, try to do it one more time. Had he not shared that, we wouldn't have known. We revamped the process of the Gale for a Day. We hired additional staff to follow up with the parents. We did additional training for the students that are involved. There's now an application process for the students that are Gale for a Days, because we want them to have the best experience when we get them in the building, because we've found that the biggest decision-making process is that.
The notion of having students, run these focus groups and conduct this research was a benefit in itself. Our students were much more candid in their responses. Hearing about it from someone, one, not connected with Iona Preparatory School, and two, not another adult in their lives.
It's a market research class, but it translates a lot of different skills, communication skills. You can also translate analytical skills. You can translate, teamwork. So if you had the opportunity to take this class, it really does enhance you for the future, and it makes you engaged. It makes you want to go to class every class.
My name is Greg Scott. I live in one of the world's most notoriously loud cities, New York City.
I am the founder of the Soundprint app, an app that's basically can be dubbed Yelp for Noise, where users can measure the sound level of a venue and then crowdsource them by submitting them to a database, and people can search for places based on how loud or quiet they are. And I was dating, and I was always Googling quiet spots. With hearing loss, I wanted to make sure I'd be able to be in an environment where I'd be able to hear someone. And a lot of times when I would show up, these places were very rarely actually quiet. That's kind of when the epiphany came, where we should all have an app where we're able to help each other find quieter spots and avoid noisy ones. There were potentially many uses with the app, but we wanted to find out what was the primary behavioral driver for the user, and then design everything behind that one motive.
It was in the initial stages of their project, and they had a great product and they wanted to see what they could do. But we were honest with them, and we said we will do whatever we can, but we can't do everything. So really it was getting the product in front of a consumer and seeing what their initial reaction was. So once we sat in the focus group and all pulled out our phones and we passed it around the room so that they could see, if they were just pulling up the app normally, what they would see when they opened their phones. There was a gentleman in the room who said he did not suffer from any hearing loss. However, he had a family member who was really significantly affected, and for him, this app would have been groundbreaking in that he could learn about locations before going there. Through our research, we kind of learned that this was helpful to everyone, and that it shouldn't necessarily be limited to only people that were hearing impaired, because people that had full hearing and full ability with their hearing and might just have a family member that was hearing impaired would be just as willing to use the app because they were also looking for a quiet space.
Turns out most people who use the app have normal hearing. And the primary motive that the Seton Hall students came up with was, through the focus group, through the questionnaires, through the research, was that people primarily use the app to search for a quiet spot. The slogan of the app is "Find Your Quiet Place," so that was aligned. And then we wanted to enhance the features, the ones that were more aligned with finding and searching.
This program really inspires people to make meaningful connections with their business partners that we get a first-hand opportunity to work with. When they first told us that we had sound print, I have no direct experience with the hearing impaired, but it was great to be able to branch my horizons and work with an organization that was doing so much good for a community that was in need of kind of a tailored app that would help them.
So today at camp, it was our first guest day.
If you ask my coach, I'm in the gym every single day.
And what we do is we bring in an athlete and a journalist, and they demonstrate how to conduct a sports interview. And then our students hold a press conference. And then we open it up what we call the locker room.
What age did you start playing basketball?
And the students have an opportunity to come up right to that guest.
You might be working late, you might be working, a night game.
Once they do that, then they sit down, they have to do a spot story, and they immediately are writing. Write on Sports is we take middle school kids and we turn them into sports journalists to help them improve their writing skills. We're strengthening their skills as a writer, but we're also strengthening their skills as self-confidence. What we want to know is finding out the long-term impact our program has had on our students and families.
I was the only female in the group. All the other guys raised their hand first. The Write on Sports team came in knowing exactly what they wanted to do. They've gotten a lot of verbal feedback on the program and how helpful the program is to the students and even to the parents. The problem was quantifying those experiences. So first we discussed what kind of questions did we want to ask, and we conducted phone interviews. Okay, well, how do we blow this out? How do we quantify what is it that we want to learn from these comments? And from there, we designed a Qualtrics survey. When it's a blind survey like that, anonymous, it was good to see that a lot of the feelings came across in the survey, and we were able to put the data behind these great quotes that we were getting.
Based on the students' responses and parent responses, they didn't expect their kid to enjoy writing for 2 weeks in the summer. And they turned around and said this was a great program, and it really made them more excited about writing in general, but also made them excited about taking those skills back to the classroom come September. As we continue to grow, this data helps us prove to funders, not only just in our immediate area, but also for affiliates, that they can then take it back to their donor base and say, here is the information, here are the hard numbers, here is where it's working and how it's working. As a smaller organization, having a dedicated team of 5 people who are able to really comb through and source data that we can now use for our funders, for our affiliates, for growing the organization has been so instrumental for our big picture goals.
I'm not gonna lie. Senior year definitely was a little bit harder than I expected. You know, you're traveling back and forth from Seton Hall to headquarters and back, and balancing all your other classes. It's a little bit of work, but if I could go back and do it again, I 100% would. The market research class offered by Seton Hall, the overall goal is to prepare us as marketing students for the real world. You have the opportunity to work with businesses and in some cases schools all across New Jersey. To be a student with not a lot of real world experience, they definitely, push you right in. And, I remember Within the first week of us starting the project, my team and I were at King's headquarters, and we were touring the facility and having meetings with senior management.
We have to constantly evolve in the grocery industry. We had a lot of competitions come in over the past few years, so we truly needed to differentiate ourselves. We knew that consumers' buying behaviors were changing. So our work with the Seton Hall Research Group really allowed us to test 3 projects through market research, and one of them was about our store of the future. We wanted to learn more about what convenience and services that individuals were looking for from their grocery store.
We kind of, conducted a multitude of different types of research. When you're conducting market research, you have an obligation to, be truthful. You have an obligation to share factual information and conduct unbiased research.
It's interesting when we talk about the store of the future, we were thinking that a lot of our consumers will be talking about some more digital technology. And really what we had heard is what's key is service, some more personal engagement.
Karen kind of hinted that, this store of the future is something that they're really implementing. It's not just an exercise. So I just graduated last spring. And currently, I work for King's. The official title of my job is Digital Asset Coordinator. I'm in charge of overseeing the various media content that King's produces. To come out of that class, fully employed, to come out of that class with lifelong relationships, to come out of that class knowing more about myself as an employee, as a leader, as a worker. This class helped me grow professionally maybe tenfold.